The rain-soaked streets of Chicago mirrored the ache in my chest, each droplet a reminder of the love I'd lost. I was 28, adrift, and desperate to claw my way out of the heartbreak Ethan had left behind. So, when my best friend Maya insisted on a blind date to fix me, I said yes, if only to shut her up. I stepped into the loft, a rooftop cafe in the Loop, its warm fairy lights cutting through the chilly October evening. The place buzzed with soft jazz and clinking glasses, but my stomach churned with nerves. I hadn't dated since Ethan. Ethan with his crooked smile and promises that crumbled like ash. I scanned the room, clutching the strap of my messenger bag, searching for the guy Maya described. Tall, artsy, your type. Then I saw him. Not my date, but Ethan. He stood at the bar, his broad shoulders tense, that familiar mop of chestnut hair catching the light. My heart lurched, and for a split second, I forgot how to breathe. What was he doing here? Before I could bolt, a voice called my name. Jasper? Jasper Torres. I turned, and there was a man, late 20s, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, with tousled black hair and a nervous grin that made his hazel eyes crinkle. He wore a navy sweater, sleeves rolled up, and extended a hand. I'm Lucas, Maya's friend. You're, blind date. I shook his hand, my mind still reeling from Ethan's presence. Yeah, hi. Nice to meet you. My voice sounded hollow, my eyes darting back to the bar. Ethan was laughing now, his arm around a guy I didn't recognize. My chest tightened. Was he on a blind date too? Lucas followed my gaze, his smile faltering. You okay? You look like you just saw a ghost. Something like that. I muttered, forcing myself to focus. Lucas deserved better than me pining over my ex 10 feet away. I slid into the chair across from him, the candle between us flickering like my resolve. So, tell me about you. Maya said you're an artist? Lucas's face lit up, and he launched into a story about his mural projects in Pilsen, his hands gesturing wildly as he described splashes of color on brick walls. He was charming, unguarded, the kind of guy who could make you forget your own name. But every few seconds, my eyes betrayed me, flicking to Ethan. He was leaning closer to his date now, whispering something that made the guy laugh. I gripped my coffee mug, the heat searing my palms. 6 months ago, Ethan had been whispering to me like that, promising forever in our cramped Logan Square apartment. Then he'd left, claiming he needed space to find himself. Apparently, he'd found himself a new date instead. Jasper. Lucas's voice snapped me back. You sure you're okay? You're kind of staring. I flushed, scrambling for an excuse. Sorry, just thought I recognized someone. Lucas tilted his head, studying me with a mix of curiosity and concern. Ex-boyfriend. I froze. Was I that obvious? Yeah. Bad breakup. Didn't expect to see him here. He nodded, no judgment in his eyes. Been there. Want to tell me about it? Or we can talk about something else. Like, say, why Maya thought we'd hit it off. I laughed despite myself, the tension easing. She probably just wants me to stop moping. Well, you're not moping now, Lucas said, his grin teasing. You're on a date with a guy who paints walls for a living. That's progress. For the first time that night, I felt a spark of something. Hope, maybe. But then Ethan's laugh cut through the air again, sharp and familiar, and my resolve wavered. The night wore on, and Lucas proved to be everything Ethan wasn't. Attentive, funny, present. He told me about growing up in a small Wisconsin town, coming out at 16, and moving to Chicago to chase his art. I shared bits of my life too. My job as a graphic designer, my Puerto Rican roots, my obsession with vinyl records. The conversation flowed, but Ethan's presence loomed like a storm cloud. I caught glimpses of him and his date, a lanky guy with glasses who seemed smitten. Every time Ethan touched his arm or leaned in, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Was this his plan too? A blind date to erase me? Lucas noticed my distraction again. Okay, spill it. What's the deal with the guy at the bar? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. His name's Ethan. We were together for 2 years. He broke it off 6 months ago, said he wasn't ready for serious. Now he's here, looking pretty serious with someone else. Lucas whistled low. That's rough. Want me to spill a drink on him? I'm clumsy when I need to be. I snorted, the image of Lucas accidentally dousing Ethan in wine almost enough to lift my mood. Tempting, but I'll pass. He leaned forward, his voice softening. Look, I don't know your story, but you seem like someone who deserves better than pining over a guy who's moved on. You're here, trying. That's brave. His words hit harder than I expected. Brave. Was I? Or was I just running from the pain? Before I could respond, Ethan's voice boomed across the room. Jasper? Holy shit, is that you? My heart stopped. He was walking toward us, his date trailing behind, confusion on both their faces. Lucas raised an eyebrow, clearly sensing the drama about to unfold. Ethan, I said, my voice tighter than I wanted. What are you doing here? He grinned, that same infuriating grin that used to make my knees weak. Blind date. Trying to get over someone. You know how it is. His eyes flicked to Lucas, sizing him up. Didn't expect to see you here, though. The irony hit me like a freight train. We were both here, on blind dates, chasing the same desperate plan to forget each other. Lucas shifted in his seat, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. So, you're Ethan, he said, his tone neutral but laced with curiosity. Jasper's mentioned you. Ethan's grin faltered, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something, regret, maybe, in his blue eyes. All good things, I hope. Not exactly, I said before I could stop myself. Lucas coughed, hiding a laugh, and Ethan's date looked increasingly uncomfortable. Okay, wow, Ethan said, rubbing the back of his neck. Guess I deserve that. He gestured to the guy beside him. This is Caleb, by the way. Caleb, Jasper. Jasper, Caleb. Caleb gave an awkward wave, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. I couldn't blame him. The air was thick with tension, the kind that could choke you. Lucas, bless him, broke the silence. Well, this is cozy. Why don't you two join us? Plenty of room for awkward ex-reunions. I shot him a look, but his playful smirk told me he was trying to defuse the situation. Ethan hesitated, then shook his head. Nah, we're good. Just wanted to say hi. But Caleb, to everyone's surprise, spoke up. Actually, I wouldn't mind. I'm kinda curious about this whole vibe. And just like that, we were all squeezed around the same table, a bizarre double date I never asked for. Ethan kept stealing glances at me, and I hated how my heart still raced under his gaze. Lucas, meanwhile, seemed unfazed, asking Caleb about his job. He was a librarian, apparently, and keeping the conversation light. But the longer we sat there, the more the past clawed its way to the surface. Ethan mentioned our old apartment, the one we'd painted together in a fit of DIY enthusiasm. Remember the time we got paint in your hair? He said, his voice soft, nostalgic. I swallowed hard. Yeah, took me an hour to wash it out. Lucas's hand brushed mine under the table, a subtle anchor. Sounds like a story, he said, his tone gentle but pointed. You should tell me about it sometime. Ethan's jaw tightened, and I realized he was jealous. The guy who'd walked away from me was jealous. It should have felt like a victory, but all I felt was confusion. As the night wore on, the cafe grew quieter, the crowd thinning. Caleb excused himself to the bathroom, and Ethan took the opportunity to lean in, his voice low. Jasper, can we talk? Alone. I glanced at Lucas, who gave a small nod, his expression unreadable. I'll grab us another round, he said, standing. You good? Yeah. I lied, my stomach twisting. Ethan and I stepped out onto the rooftop's edge, the city sprawling below us. The wind carried the scent of rain, and I shoved my hands in my pockets to keep from fidgeting. I didn't expect this, Ethan said, his voice raw. Seeing you here, it's messing with me. You're the one who left. I snapped, the hurt spilling out. You don't get to be messed up. I know, he said, his eyes searching mine. I fucked up, okay? I thought I needed to be free, but I miss you, Jasper. I miss us. My breath caught. 6 months ago, I would have given anything to hear those words. But now I could still feel Lucas's hand brushing mine, his quiet strength grounding me. Ethan, you can't just... I started, but he cut me off, stepping closer. I'm serious. I want to try again. Before I could respond, Lucas's voice came from behind. Everything okay out here? I turned, and there he was, holding 2 steaming mugs, his eyes locked on mine with a warmth that made my chest ache. Ethan's confession hung in the air, but for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to catch it. The rooftops seemed to shrink, the city lights blurring as my mind raced. Ethan's words echoed, I want to try again, but they clashed with the steady presence of Lucas, who stood there, unwavering, his hazel eyes searching mine for an answer I didn't have. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of something, a choice I wasn't ready to make. Jasper. Ethan's voice was softer now, almost pleading. Say something. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Lucas set the mugs on a nearby table, his movements deliberate, giving me space, but not leaving. I'll let you 2 talk, he said, his tone calm but tinged with something. Disappointment, maybe? I'll be inside. No, I blurted, surprising myself. Stay. Lucas paused, his brow furrowing, and Ethan's expression darkened. Jasper, come on, Ethan said, stepping closer. This is between us. Is it? I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. Because you made it pretty clear there was no us when you walked out. Ethan flinched, and for a moment, I saw the boy I'd loved. The one who'd made me laugh until my sides hurt, who'd held me through late-night doubts. But that boy was gone, replaced by someone who'd chosen himself over us. Lucas cleared his throat, breaking the tension. Look, I'm not here to play referee. Jasper, you don't owe anyone an explanation. Just figure out what you want. He gave me a small, encouraging smile before stepping back, giving me room to breathe. I looked between them. Ethan, the past I'd clung to, and Lucas, the possibility I hadn't dared to hope for. The weight of it all pressed down on me, and I turned to the railing, staring out at the city. The Chicago River glittered below, reflecting the lights like scattered stars. I thought I was over you, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. I came here tonight to prove it, to move on. Ethan's face softened, hope flickering in his eyes. And seeing me changed that. I shook my head, the truth settling in. Seeing you made me realize I've been holding on to a ghost. You didn't want me enough to stay, Ethan. I deserve someone who does. His jaw tightened, and he looked away, the silence heavy between us. I'm sorry, he said at last. I didn't know what I had. I nodded, the ache in my chest loosening just a fraction. I hope you find what you're looking for. He lingered for a moment, then turned and walked back inside, leaving me alone with the city and my thoughts. I felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. Lucas stepped up beside me, his shoulder brushing mine. You okay? He asked, his voice gentle. I looked at him, really looked at him, his kind eyes, his quiet strength, the way he'd stayed through the mess without pushing. Yeah, I said, and for the first time that night, I meant it. I think I am. He smiled, and something warm bloomed in my chest. Good, because I was hoping we could try this date thing again, without the ex-drama. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Deal, but you're buying the next round. The weeks that followed were a blur of new beginnings. Lucas and I met up again, this time at a quiet bookstore in Wicker Park. No exes, no interruptions, just us, browsing shelves and stealing glances over stacks of novels. He teased me about my love for sci-fi, and I teased him about his obsession with art history. It was easy, natural, like we'd known each other for years. But the shadow of Ethan lingered, not as pain, but as a lesson. I'd spent so long defining myself by that relationship, by the hurt he'd left behind, that I'd forgotten how to just be. Lucas reminded me. He showed up, not with grand gestures, but with small, steady ones, a text to check in, a playlist he made because I mentioned loving jazz, a late-night walk along Lake Michigan where we talked about everything and nothing. One evening, as we sat on a bench by the lake, the water shimmering under the moonlight, Lucas turned to me. "You ever think about what you want, Jasper? Like, really want?" I leaned back, the cool night air brushing my skin. I used to think I wanted forever with someone like Ethan. Now, I just want to be happy, to feel like I'm enough. He reached for my hand, his fingers warm against mine. "You are. More than enough." My heart stuttered, and I leaned in, closing the distance between us. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deeper, like a promise we were both ready to keep. When we pulled back, his smile was brighter than the city lights. Months later, I stood in Lucas's studio, surrounded by half-finished canvases and the sharp scent of paint. He was working on a mural, a vibrant explosion of color that somehow felt like us. Bold, messy, beautiful. I watched him, paint smudged on his cheek, and felt a quiet certainty settle in my bones. I'd gone on that blind date to get over Ethan, to prove I could move on. But what I found was so much more, a chance to rediscover myself, to choose someone who chose me back. Ethan had been a chapter, but Lucas? He was the whole damn book, one I couldn't wait to keep reading. And as I stood there, watching him paint, I realized something else. Sometimes, the best things come when you're brave enough to let go of the past and step into the unknown.